Hour 3 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Chad Kelly later in the hour. This could be Harbaugh's last game in Michigan. They're not a big favorite. I think they're 4.5, 5-point favorites tonight against Washington. But
why do they come out with that scoop during this game? Like, they just can't wait until after. They're like, Harbaugh's going to San Diego. Done. Why is Harbaugh negotiating this stuff right before? I don't know. I just find that stuff weird, man.
I know. It is.
Like, just let the game be dead and then say, you know what? Good chance this guy's going to San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess if Harbaugh got into talks, then he deserves it.
Yeah, exactly. It's his. I don't blame the reporter. If it's accurate, if he's leaving or whatever, that's not his role. Isn't to make sure the players feel like everyone's focused on the prize. But you do have to question the motives of, Jim Harbaugh here.
Yeah.
If he's trying to get to the NFL.
NFL teams are in the playoffs and their assistant coaches are flying all over the place for interviews. I find that crazy.
Yeah,
it is weird.
I mean, he got suspended the 3 games, I guess, or they accepted the suspension. I think the whole cheating scandal, I don't know if that's a dead story yet. It should be from a team standpoint. Like Michigan, even without him, they went into Penn State and won. They beat Ohio State. They just beat Alabama. Like, what else do you want to see? Like, they're clearly the best team in the country. What is the cheating scandal?
Like, what did he apparently do?
They allegedly, well, I think there's a smoking gun, was sending someone ahead to the forthcoming opponents, and they had been planting guys on the sideline to pick up signals. So basically they had like an employee that I believe had access to sidelines, I think, and I'm not sure exactly how that works.
But at the opponent's home games?
Yeah, so in other words, let's say they're playing Penn State next week. They would send someone to watch Penn State the week before and be up close and personal and steal signs or try to pick up on the signs and then use them to their advantage when game planning against them for that upcoming game.
So is this guy taking pics and stuff? Or
I'm not sure exactly what he had in terms of the information, but like it was enough for the NCAA or the Big Ten, I guess, to come down and say, hey, do you want to take this or leave it? We're going to suspend you for 3 games. And he's like, all right, I'll take it. Like he didn't fight back on it.
How would they have ever got busted on something like that? So one of his own staff members must have ratted him out.
Yeah, it sounds like it could have been the head coach at Ohio State or others in the Big Ten. It was probably a well-known secret. Like, hey, there he is. Because there was one guy in particular, I can't remember his name, that was the one that was doing it. And I guess, if he shows up at your facility, you're like, I know what this guy's story is. And then eventually it got out, and the rest is history.
Imagine the monkey business that the cat that was coaching Ohio State that went to Jacksonville was up to. What was his name?
Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
He was scouting
up to some monkey
He wasn't
business,
scouting
man.
football games, though. He was scouting a totally different category.
I bet you he sent some spies. He was up to all kinds of monkey business on and off the field.
Go check that bar out in Penn State next time we're there. Let me know if something's cooking over there.
Yeah,
I love
Test
it.
out the
That
bar
guy's a
stools.
Yeah. Yeah. So Chad Kelly later in the hour. Chris Johnston coming up in a moment. We haven't talked about Tiger leaving Nike, or I guess mutually parting ways. I'm not sure how to really explain it, but like you talk about an athlete that outside of Michael Jordan, I would say he is more synonymous with Nike than anyone else. Like in any other sports brand, any other athlete, like, more so than, any soccer player that I can think of, like in North America anyway.
Think of the Sunday red Nike shirt every Sunday in his prime. It was just, think about that golf ball at the Masters trickling in, like the play that Nike
were the
logo
details
got.
released?
No,
Were the details released?
It was just moving in that direction for a while, Noodles, and then he posted on IG today. He's like, after 27 years, it's been great. And Nike said, hey, it was awesome. See you later, Tiger, basically. And
that's why that explains why they didn't care that he jacked up his foot and he just went and got a FootJoy shoe and said, this is better. It's not going to be a Nike one.
I don't know what he's going to be wearing, though. It's
going to be weird regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's got to keep the Sunday red.
I'll tell you what, if he wheels out there in that Jason Day stuff, I don't know what they're paying him. It ain't enough.
Yeah, it's too much gear, man. It's like he looks like he's in Greece. Like it's like a 50s diner the guy's hanging out at.
What could be I know CJ's there, but he can weigh in too. What would be the weirdest thing that Tiger would walk? Like if he walked out in Skechers, would people just lose it?
No. If he walks out in Hovland gear.
Right, but like what are those shoes that we always talk about that Nicky Faldo's always plugging?
What are
those squares? He walks out in a pair of squares.
Dude, I'll throw stuff at my TV if he wheels to the first tee in a black pair of squares. Anyway, bring in CJ.
Here's Chris Johnston, our TSN hockey analyst, insider, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. How you doing, CJ?
I'm doing well. I'm just trying to imagine Tiger in that Jay Lindeberg gear. Do you remember that stuff? Like the tight European, like
the Hovland stuff.
Like,
yeah. Maybe a Jesper Parnevik flipped up cap. Like just make it all work for Tiger.
If he has just ball hugging pants on Lindenberg with a stripe on the side, I will pass out watching golf. I will pass out.
Yeah,
because Hovland's pants they're Lululemons. Like they're so tight on him.
Yeah, they are. It's outrageous.
It is.
It's just an outrageous gear. Anyway, so where are we at here, CJ? How are we feeling about William Nylander getting $11.5 million per on an 8-year deal? And we've been saying all afternoon, I don't blame the player. I don't blame his reps. There's no pressure point right now. If you want me to sign in the middle of January, this is what I'll sign for. Like it appears to me as if, from my standpoint, this wasn't a negotiation. This was effectively a concession. Like the Leafs wanted to keep him. They wanted to get it done now, and I can't imagine they didn't give him everything he was asking for.
Yeah, I mean, more or less. It would be hard to conclude otherwise. And, I think that, obviously where it got to is when you start a season as well as William Nylander did, when you're still an elite player in the league and presumably have prime years in your future, and you can walk out the door for nothing on July 1st, I mean, he is in possession of absolutely all the leverage. He's in a position where he can essentially set the kind of terms that he agreed to. And I can understand how the Leafs got there, quite honestly. I mean, the prospect of replacing him, even with that additional cap space, is not a promising one. Who are you signing? Are we sure that player is going to work in Toronto? Are we sure that player is going to be any better, or players, if it's multiple, equaling up to that kind of contract? And so, he was in a really favorable spot with how he played this year. And, there could have been a world, there's an alternate universe where he struggled this season or he got injured or something happened and he wouldn't have been getting this kind of contract. But after points in 33 of 37 games and being up there with the league leaders, I mean, he was in a position to get exactly what he wanted.
CJ, excuse me, are you somewhat shocked that we're here? Last year, before the playoffs started, you said, if they don't get it done, then this core four will likely be broken up. And now Matthews is re-upped and Nylander's re-upped. Do you think it just keeps going with these guys? Like, how long before it ends with these guys just keep re-upping without success?
Well, I mean, look, just because Nylander and Matthews are now signed to a third NHL contract with the Leafs doesn't mean the core four is being kept together, forever. Certainly I think for the balance of the season, I'm not predicting anything there, but there's a big decision that's going to now have to be made after this year on Mitch Marner. I suppose there's a world where they have to at least consider to create cap space by trying to move on from John Tavares. I mean, it's hard to predict those things. I don't know how the rest of this year is going to go. I don't know what the playoffs are going to look like. I think that will have the ultimate bearing on the path ahead. But, I don't think that just because this signing was made and the Matthews deal they made in August means that the core four will definitely remain intact. I think it certainly looms as a potentially difficult negotiation with Marner because, let's face it, he has a lot of the same leverage that Nylander ended up having in this deal, and that he's still a highly desirable player for other teams. He's relatively young, obviously accomplished a ton in the league, and he could be a free agent if he doesn't sign. He has actually even more leverage as well because he has a no movement clause, and so the Leafs couldn't even trade him unless he consented to it. So. I still stick to what I said before last year's playoffs. If you remember, Kyle Dubas was a GM at the time, and in his last remarks as Leafs GM publicly, he mentioned that he was thinking about at least, making a change to that core four. And so, there was a world that would have happened without the change of the general manager's position. And now Brad Treliving's still pretty new in the process, but I would think by this summer, it's going to be an interesting summer for the Leafs, not just in terms of who they're signing to fill all the holes on the roster entering next season, but how they navigate the Marner situation and the possibility of at least having a debate. Do you try to see if John Tavares could be moved? I mean, I think that they, really depending what happens in the playoffs, it's hard to get too deep into that conversation, because if things go well and they win the cup, then it's probably a moot point. But if they go out in the first round and things don't look too good, I mean, it could be a tumultuous summer. We'll have to see. Yeah, I mean, at this point, I guess the easiest thing to predict would be they keep going with the same philosophy they've had for years, because, again, they re-up Matthews, they've re-upped Willie. I'll believe it when I see it that, they don't give Mitch Marner basically everything he's going to ask for in the future. Tavares is a different story because he's got 1 year left. Later in his career, if he sticks around, I think we all can concede it's going to be at a much cheaper deal. I think John would be the first one to tell you that reality. But, Brad Treliving came out and said very publicly he wanted to get Matthews signed. He did that. He wanted to get Nylander signed. He did that. And he wants to upgrade his defense. But the question everyone has is, how do you do that without a lot of cap space? Reportedly, you don't want to trade your two best prospects in a first-round pick. So how does that happen? Like, how does Brad Treliving, achieve that next kind of check mark on his resume here? Well, I'm glad it's his job and not mine. Mm-hmm. I'll put it that way, because you're kind of laying it out in the plainest terms possible, and there's not an easy or convenient answer to it. I think it would help, and there's still a bit of an if to this, but if Joseph Woll is as good of a prospect as he looks to be, and he signed at a manageable number for next season, I mean, really what we're talking about is navigating next year specifically. Because with Tavares up at the end of next season, with the hope of, the cap to jump again, so we know it's going to jump this summer, but if it jumps again, and you got Tavares' $11 million off the books, and maybe at that point you're looking at doing a more manageable deal for him, there's a world where 2 years from now, the Leafs are actually in a better position than they're going to be next season. But next year, I think they're going to have to probably have some, I don't know if you want to call them holes, but certainly question marks, players on the roster that, that maybe aren't as established as you'd like to have in that position. But I mean, it's the reality. I mean, right now it's setting up. If they bring the four guys back at their the current contracts, it's going to be 53% of next year's cap is committed to the top four forwards. So, that leaves you only the other 47% to, sign somewhere from 17 to 19 players. Obviously, some of those guys are signed, like a Morgan Riley, for example, already. I mean, there's just not a lot of money to go around. We're not going to be talking about the Leafs being big players, come July 1st, assuming, again, that they're keeping the four main forwards. They're just going to have to be value shopping and hoping to plug some holes. And, they've done that for a number of years where it hasn't resulted in the playoff runs they've wanted. But, I mean, they've certainly been pretty successful regular season team. It's starting to work a little better right now. You're seeing Bertuzzi come on and, put up some points lately. I think that there's a path to do it, but it's, every choice you make in the salary cap kind of takes away one choice, right? And so by signing another player to a big deal, to a deal where he's getting a raise, I mean, the Leafs have basically wiped out the benefits of seeing the cap go up, or basically going to be eaten up by Matthews' raise next year and then the one William Nylander is about to get.
CJ, what are you hearing in the league is the trade chatter? I'm sure there's lots going on behind the scenes, but, does something like this maybe accelerate something, or does, now that Treliving's got Nylander, on the books, does he pivot into, addressing the D and maybe, heating up some of the talks that he potentially has had behind the scenes? Like, I would argue that with some of the settling in the standings, some teams that have struggled, some teams that have come on, don't you think that the trade chatter would maybe fire it up, or it might maybe just wishful thinking type of thing early in January here?
Yeah, 2 months out from the deadline, I think there might be a little bit of wishful thinking there, Noodles. But, when it comes to the Leafs, one of the answers that I'm sure you guys didn't get to because Treliving had the presser today, he was asked about the deadline, and I found it kind of interesting that he basically, to me, was at least setting the table for maybe not being as busy of a deadline for the Leafs, just with their lack of, things to trade for other players, and with some of him liking what he's seen of late from the defenseman he has. I mean, I didn't see it as him saying, I'm not making a deal. I think certainly I would expect the Leafs roster of today to look different 2 months from now when we get through the deadline, but it might not be significantly different. I mean, remember last year, Kyle Dubas made a whole bunch of trades, some of them with depth players, but also adding, the Acharis, the Ryan O'Reillys, Luke Shen, at the deadline, Eric Gustafson. I don't get the sense that we're in for that sort of deadline period, again, unless injury or something demands it. Probably the goaltending picture is going to be the most interesting, just how they get through this stretch, what they do with Samsonov, where Wall is when he's healthy enough to return and play. Does he play well initially? Can they withstand this period? I know Jones has been great and it was the second star of the week today, but I think that there's a lot of those questions probably aren't going to be answered till closer to March 8th for Toronto's standpoint. League-wide, I just think there's too much of a logjam to predict. I mean, a team like Ottawa is starting to look like it could be more of a seller, but there's a band of teams. I'll identify Pittsburgh, right? I mean, they're in a cluster as we look at it right now, where they're really not too far out of a wild card spot. But where are they at? 6 weeks from now, there'll be other teams in their same position. Washington could be one. Are they selling? Are they buying? Are they somewhere in the middle? So I don't get the sense anything is cooking up actually right now in the trade market, but. Let's hope it happens soon, because I know that the fans love it, and obviously we love it on our, on the media side here.
With Chris Johnston, our TSN Hockey Insider, we've been kind of comparing and contrasting what different teams in the country have done over the last couple of years with prominent players. Where we saw today, obviously the Leafs decided they didn't want to live in a world without William Nylander. They weren't willing to even get close to July 1st and challenge him on the idea that he'd actually leave. So they gave him a monster deal. Last summer, they did the same thing with Austin. Meanwhile, in Winnipeg, different context, because Pierre-Luc Dubois had told him he wasn't staying. But they make that move. That looks like a phenomenal trade right now. A phenomenal trade. Winnipeg is maybe the best team in the league, and Pierre-Luc Dubois has been terrible in L.A. Bo Horvat, a couple years ago, same thing. They put a price tag on it. They said, this is it. And look what's happened ever since they made that move. I'm curious more about those two scenarios, CJ. If other teams around the league will look at that and say, why aren't we more bullish in our program and who we are, what we can build? Like, it's a 23-man roster. If we lose one guy or we move on from one guy, the house of cards will not collapse.
Right, but I mean, Winnipeg didn't move on from Scheifele and Hellebuck, and that's been part of their success too, right? And coming out of a summer where that was certainly a possibility, and where I think a lot of people in that market were talking about it. Those contracts didn't necessarily land with mass applause, but it's obviously been part of the success they've had this year. They resisted in Vancouver potentially at least the idea of trading JT Miller. His name was certainly out there at last year's deadline. He's having a great start to this year. Brock Besser's another one who definitely looked like there was a time he wouldn't remain in Vancouver, and he's scored a ton of goals to start this year. So he's been part of their success. I mean, I think that it's maybe dangerous to cherry pick in some situations. I mean, with Dubois, he wasn't going to sign a new deal in Winnipeg, so they had to move him, and he had all the leverage. He had one RFA year left, I believe, but he wanted to play Montreal or LA, and they found the best deal they could make, and it got done. I mean, credit to Kevin Cheveldayoff. It's not always easy to hold those kind of trade talks with one arm tied behind your back, but he managed, it would appear, to do a nice job with that deal with the Kings. But if anything, I think the story of the Canucks, yes, they moved on from Besser, help me out here.
Bo Horvat.
Bo Horvat, yeah. But they didn't move on from a number of other players when maybe the temptation might have been there to do so, and their patience has been rewarded. So, man, it's an imperfect science. I didn't see this season coming in Vancouver. I'll be the first to put my hand up and say that. And we'll see if it continues. I'm still wondering what other shoes could be there to drop. I think that there's a good opportunity for them to be an aggressive team as that trade deadline gets closer.
Those Jets, CJ, I'll tell you what, they just sucked me back in, man. I was like, I'm done with them.
You're a believer again?
I used to pick them to win the cup, man, and then I'm like, this year that wouldn't happen. Now they have the best record in the league. Just goes to show you, like, what should their approach be at the deadline? What does all in for the Winnipeg Jets mean? Maybe they just sit back and say, we like the team the way we are, and we're going to go at it that way. Who knows?
Who knows? I would say I could see them adding another forward. When you look at some of those years when the Jets felt they had a chance to really go for it, they went for it, right? They traded for Stastny. I'm going back in the memory bank a little bit. They traded for Kevin Hayes. That one didn't work out as well. But, we've seen Kevin Cheveldayoff be aggressive when he felt like his team had a chance to go on a playoff run, and certainly worked in the Stastny case. He ended up signing another contract there and was a useful player for them. I could see them getting in the mix, especially if this continues. I mean, it's, who knows what the future holds, but let's face it, part of what they're still trying to accomplish there is getting more fans in the building. The best way to do that is put a winning product on the ice to go on a long playoff run to create excitement in the marketplace. And, they've been probably the biggest surprise of the year, just the fact that they're at the top of the league standings almost halfway through right now. And I think that it does shift a certain amount of responsibility to management to try to make sure that they have the best chance possible. I mean, I don't know if we put them in the top tier. Like, do you see them with a Colorado or a Vegas in terms of having a cup opportunity? I mean, I guess if it continues another 6-7 weeks, that question will be answered at the deadline by what Shovel Day Off does.
What do you hear on Connor Bedard's likelihood of being in Toronto for the All-Star game?
It doesn't look good. The Blackhawks are waiting for some imaging to be done before putting a timeline on it. But, just based on what we've seen with other players with broken jaws, I mean, typically you're looking at something like a 6-week absence for that type of injury. And obviously, as much as I think selfishly, I'm sure lots of fans, media members like ourselves would love to see Bedard at an All-Star game. I don't know that they're going to go too far above and beyond unless he's back somewhere close to 100%. But I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out. I mean, no decisions that I'm aware of have been made at this time, but it's an unfortunate injury to an exciting young player. And I have to say, especially with the changes this year to the skills competition, where it's an individualized thing and it's only going to be a select group of guys. Like I was kind of hoping we might see like Bedard and Crosby and Matthews and McDavid and McKinnon all in the same skills competition in a head-to-head kind of format. But Bedard will be at many more All-Star games, I'm sure, but it doesn't look too good for Toronto just yet. Yeah,
that sucks, man. And now the Calder's wide open. Yep. Like if he misses 6 weeks, you're talking 15 games.
Hello, Luke Hughes.
Yeah, Luke Hughes, Brock Faber, like you mentioned. Adam Fantilli's putting up good numbers in Columbus. Matthew Knies isn't out of the running. He has a great second half. He's looked really good recently. But, yeah, we'll see. All right, CJ.
I have to say, I was one of the writers. If you remember, McDavid only played 45 games in his rookie year because he had the collarbone issue. I still gave him my top Calder vote because I thought he was the best rookie. But
interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah, listen, Bedard he's clearly the guy right now. Yeah. And if he returns and plays the final 25 games and puts up 30 points and 10 goals, why not? He's still in the running for sure.
But he just hasn't dominated to a point. He hasn't dominated where it's like that much more than everybody else.
Maybe not.
You know what I mean?
Maybe not. But, yeah, I like that viewpoint, CJ. I like my Packers this week too, man. You guys, how shook are you that you got Green Bay in the first round? Are you happy about that or what as a Cowboy fan?
I'm happy. I was a little more nervous about the Rams possibility, if I'm being honest. So
yeah, that's reasonable. I can't disagree with that, but I love the idea of Mike McCarthy having to beat his former team to possibly keep his job.
Go get Pierre and Mark Rowe and Glenn Schiller some man diapers because you guys are about to just have a soiling next weekend.
Are you kidding?
Nah, dude, I'm telling you. You guys, you know what's coming up. You know what you guys do.
So when
just
we
buy
win,
a 12-pack.
What do I get? Let's make a bet. What do I get? What do you get?
Listen, I'm a Packer fan. I'd have to bet so. I don't know if they'll win. I think they'll cover the number.
Why don't we just do a nice dinner out, and I'm coming along, and if the Packers win, CJ, you're paying, and if the Packers lose, Hazy B's playing.
Okay. I can live
I'd
with
like that. But I wanted O to have to put some money on the board because he's always talking trash, but he's got no team. So he's got no...
Well, he does have a team. It's just whatever one is doing well.
$12.99 at Shoppers. Go buy a pack.
He's got 15 different teams. Now he's a Ravens fan.
Yeah. No, he's a Bills fan.
Oh, Bills
come on, the Bills. They're a local team. Come on, I've always been a Bills fan.
But then the Bills will go south, and then he'll go, well, Carlos' team had a rough time. Like, he'll blame it on boy, Coco's team was really bad on the weekend. Like, that's what'll happen.
Right.
I'm telling you.
He's Floyd Mayweather. You only hear about the wins. You never hear about the losses. Ever.
Yeah.
All right, CJ. Well, I'm sure we'll chat before the end of the week. Thank you, buddy.
Have a good one. See ya.
Chris Johnston joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander, in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. All right, Chad Kelly coming up. He'll be in studio. We'll look back on the NFL weekend for him. wonder what he makes of Nathan Rourke. Like, is he going to have a shot in the future or what? And the national championship game tonight, Michigan versus Washington. It's depressing. The NFL season's over. Obviously, the CFL season's been over for a couple of months. The college season ends tonight. Like, we're transitioning out of football season. But
it's been a great season. It's been a great season.
It has been a great season, hasn't it? It's been a great
season.
It's
been the most fun I've had.
Yeah.
Like, I know the picks have been, like, up and down, but it's been the most fun I've had.
Well, like, we haven't officially established what is going to happen in the playoffs, and Luke is already deciding the games that you guys are going to pick.
It's a veteran play, and that's what we deserve.
And it's a gutless play. Because,
no, it's not.
Yeah, it is. You know what's the most gutless about it all is he wants to pick the Bills-Steelers game, which I actually love. Because he can't get a Bills game right. He can't. He doesn't.
That's fine.
He doesn't
Dude,
like what they look like.
You think.
That's fine. Al's brother and I will pick the slate. It doesn't make a difference to us. Process pays, Part C. Don't you ever forget it. Yeah. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Chad Kelly in studio. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, we got our Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Leafs back in action tomorrow night. The Raptors continuing their roadie tomorrow. They're in L.A. Could be dangerous coming off a big win last night. Off night in L.A. tonight. It's a Monday, though, but I don't think it matters in L.A. You can find something if you're looking for it. If you're looking for something in L.A., you can find it. And
glad to see another athlete in the studio, I will say that.
Chad Kelly's in here. This idiot does a pro athlete salute whenever he's got a pro athlete with him. So
how are
Chad,
you guys?
Yeah,
Chad, he's the only guy that never. We just kind of bug him a little bit. The rest of us played in the big leagues in some capacity. And he was just the little guy that kept trying, but we just kind of give him the gears a little bit, man.
He's enjoying where he is right now. That's all.
And he's the best at what he does.
Right.
Agreed.
There. He's
Agreed.
good.
That's right. That's all. All I can do is bring a positive attitude, Chad. I didn't play the game at a professional level like you three, but I do my best. How you liking doing TV? They got you really. I saw Sarah's out there, got you doing TikToks and everything, man.
Oh, man, you bought into that stuff. You just got to shake your head and say no.
You're a team player.
No, it's been fantastic. The group I'm with, the Montage group out of New York City, they obviously have a lot of professional people that are fantastic at what they do. And hearing that John Madden was their first person, and that's the group who kind of built John Madden, and John Madden obviously built them. And he was like, I think you could be a natural doing this. So hopefully, everybody's pleased with, my takes. And, I haven't had a chance to really explain some people the way they play and kind of critique them in a way where they might get a little mad, but that's part of being an analyst, and you have to critique people. So it's been great so far.
Yeah, and you're still obviously playing. I mean, you're in your off season now, so like that's always a little bit different because you see people do that all the time, like players that are in the prime of their careers, and then they're doing TV and analysis work. And like you said, if something crazy happens tonight, you're gonna
have to address it. Yeah, you got to address it. Just like Michigan almost messed the game up for them last week, right? On special teams. So I think if a guy has played football before, I think he understands what it's supposed to look like and how it's supposed to be done. And just like Tom Brady said, I think he's being honest when he said about
stupid football.
Yeah, I think you don't see the consistency that you did before. And whether it's the coaching, whether it's the players, whether it's, outside things that are affecting the way guys are playing the game. I have no clue. I'm obviously not in the NFL right now, and I can't sit here and say that it is the coaching or whatever, but to know that I have been with some fantastic quarterbacks in the same room, and I'm sure Tom would agree with Andrew Luck and Phillip Rivers being one of the better quarterbacks to ever play the game. And then having coaches like Nick Sirianni being able to go to the Super Bowl already, and a guy like Frank Reich, who everybody adores in the football world. I mean, it seems like I've learned football from a different aspect than a lot of people have been accustomed to.
Really? Yeah, I got to be honest. Like Brady's had some strong takes lately.
Yeah.
Like I'm coming around. I was really skeptical that Brady.
You thought he was going to be Mr. I'm the best player ever, and everyone else sucks. But you got to have good takes, man. He's got them.
Well, thinking about that, Jacoby Brissett, right? He was in the same room.
Yep.
Jacoby Brissett is a top 32 quarterback. 1,000% he is. I saw how he prepares. I saw how accurate he is with football. He has a cannon for an arm, and he's elusive. And he might not be the fastest guy out there, but he can get out of the pocket, and learning football from a guy like him as well, And all these guys have seen so many football games and being behind Belichick too. Let's not discount some of these coaches too. There is a lot of great coaches out there in the football world.
Sure. Well, and then you get to the national title game tonight, Michigan versus Washington. You asked me as you walked in, you're like, who you on? I'm on Michigan. I'm going to lay the points. Do you like that idea?
Big time.
I like
Me
Michigan
too,
big tonight.
time.
I like Michigan big tonight. How are we feeling about this game?
I don't.
You like Washington outright or to cover?
I would. If I'm a betting man, I take Washington to cover, and now I'm sitting back hanging out.
Okay. All right.
But
I don't like that play.
Well,
but I'm so pathetic. Part of my reasoning is, and Hayes, I don't know if you're the same. It's probably not because you know more about the game. I just see that like the brand name of Michigan. I'm like, that name's not going to lose to Washington, man. It's like Go Blue Michigan. I just see them, and they've been talked about all year. It's like I don't know. That's why I'm on Michigan. Tell me why it's not. Okay, quarterback.
When I went to go watch Oregon versus Washington, it's the first time I've ever sat in behind the goalpost. All right. Usually I'm always on the sidelines watching a game or in the stands on the sideline. It was the first time I actually saw from behind the play actually develop, and just the way that kid throws the ball, Michael Penix, it looks so effortless. And the touch and the precise precision that he throws with, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. And that kid's only been sacked 10 times this year. That doesn't happen often, like at all. And for that guy to only be sacked 10 times, he knows the offense. He knows where he knows where to go with the football, first of all. His run game is going to have to help him out today, and we know that the guy's banged up. But the receivers on the outside, I think they're loaded first-round picks.
That's what they're saying, like multiple first, possibly.
I think so.
And it's insane he's never been sacked or only 10 times because you watch ESPN all day long and everyone's like, you don't get to the quarterback, you're screwed. It's like you got to find a way to get to him.
Yeah, or you just drop 9 guys. Drop 8, 9 guys. I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, when it's 3rd and long, I think you can definitely do that. When it's 2nd and 8 or 10, I think you might be able to get away with it. Them thinking that, they're not going to run the ball. Washington's going to have to run the ball, period.
Chad Kelly in studio. What do you make of the Harbaugh situation? Like, you got the national title game tonight, and everyone's basically speculating that he's got one foot back in the NFL.
You didn't hear from me. He's gone.
He's gone?
He's already gone.
He's out.
2 weeks ago, I got told he was gone.
No way. So that means the players probably know that. You think that affects them going into a game like tonight?
Do you think they know? I don't know.
I love when somebody on TV says you didn't hear from me. That's one of my favorites.
We heard it from you. Well, sources are saying.
I think the guys are acknowledging it.
Yeah.
But I think in the back of their mind, they're like, I don't know. Like, what happens if we win? Like, why would you want to leave?
Right. I mean, he does have a good life down there. Like, he's the king of Michigan's one of the great football powerhouses in college football history.
So what's his contract situation like then?
At the NFL level?
Right now in college.
I think he's making $7, $8, $10 million, is he not?
Yeah, and then he's looking at possibly getting another deal, right?
Right.
Or it's already in place if he wants.
Yeah.
Is it a fully guaranteed contract?
That I couldn't tell you.
See, that's what I would love to know. Because in the NFL...
The college deal?
Yeah, the college deal.
I'm pretty sure if he got gassed, it would have to be... Those guys aren't taking those jobs if it's not fully guaranteed. They'd be getting axed all over the place. That would have to be fully guaranteed.
I think he'd get a lot of guarantees for sure. I don't like. I wonder if in the NFL it's like this cheating scandal. You just said that's enough, or if maybe Michigan in a weird way or the Big Ten or whatever. They're like, we got to get rid of this guy.
Yeah, just step away quietly.
Yeah.
The recruiting now though, it might be affected. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a different ball game now though. There's no really coaching anymore. It's all just recruiting. Like you got these street agents who just come out of nowhere. It have no background in anything. Yeah, right. Maybe played high school football, but like, who is this guy to say this guy is worth $500,000? No, this guy
street agent. Some guy just comes up to you off the street.
Essentially, he reaches
like
out
booster,
to you,
basically, like for players. You mean, and like the portal and all that?
Yeah, to get you in the portal or the NIL, the name, image, and likeness, right? There's just random people that will message you on Instagram or Twitter and say, hey, like, I think I can get you $500,000 from this school. And there's a kid who goes, man, I think that could happen too. And there's no telling if that's even true, but this guy's going to sell you a dream. Now you sign a contract that says, hey, I owe you 20% of whatever I make. Well, that guy just made $20,000 by just messaging you on Instagram saying, hey, come with me. I might get you a bigger bag than someone else.
Right.
It's a crazy world we live in now with these kids being able to drive Range Rovers and
It's insane.
I mean, Lambos.
That's what's wild. Like, Chad Kelly's in studio. I saw a video of a kid, that I want to say it was signing day. He was like a 5-star recruit, and he drove up to the presser in like a souped-out Lamborghini.
But that's what they can do.
And he's like 18, he hasn't even played in college. But it's like understood. He's making like $3 million or something.
Well, you know, I talked to Hugh Freeze, and he was like, Chad, you probably would have broke the bank on us, but your worth, essentially, what we're looking at with what you've accomplished, you know, throughout your career, is essentially $2 to $4 million a year.
Wow. And you just missed that window of it exploding.
Yeah, but you know, I still enjoyed my time, man. I got
Right.
I got everything I wanted, and you know, I had an amazing time, which that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
Friendships and bonds that are going to last forever instead of going from one university to another, making new friends, meeting new coaches, people.
Friends are great, but so's money, too.
Yeah, money in a Lambo is not bad. You can go pick up that old friend.
Exactly.
I'm sending
Make
a
lot of
Range
new
Rover
friends
for
with
you.
some
Well,
cash
I'm
kicking around.
waiting for some big party in the middle of a season with a
Yeah.
college kid, you know, and next thing you know,
Yeah.
it's because he has, you know, $500,000 in the bank and he can take his whole team on a private plane.
That's wild.
for the weekend.
That is why. Well, because you hear those stories all the time. Like Caleb Williams, if he wanted to stay at
Oh,
USC, could make $50 million or something. You know, it's like you got to go to the NFL. You're ready to go. You're the first overall pick. But the idea that, like, as I saw a picture of him, he's got a penthouse in L.A. This guy's living like Drake, man. Like you got to see his penthouse.
A penthouse?
He has a penthouse in L.A. He doesn't live in a dorm or anything. Guy's got a penthouse in L.A.
But is it weird? Like, I you know, O and I didn't play college. Like, we played junior hockey. Like, is it like they say in the movies where, like, you go to a party, there's a booster club, like an old guy there that's part of the boosters that, you know, back in the day, like, hey, we got an envelope come on the way out, like that type of stuff. Is it literally like that?
Yep.
Do they have to be like secretive anymore though? They don't even have
Yeah,
to.
now they don't have to be secretive. They don't have to meet you in a restaurant and say, hey, someone asked you to come to the back room and, you know,
Here's 50 grand, 100 grand, or whatever it is. Now, like, but back in the day, that must have been still happening from time to time.
oh man, it happened every day. Hey, you go have a good game. You're making sure that you're walking away with not having to pay at least for a meal.
As you should.
That's awesome.
That is incredible.
Which is, it's just, you know, I can't say enough about it. It's just wild that it has literally transformed into something like this when, you know, I didn't have the best left tackle for 8 weeks in my junior year. We beat Alabama without him, which is unreal. But, you know, we lost to, Memphis, Florida, and Arkansas. And we didn't have him. And it was like, think about all he did was sleep on someone's couch, or someone got in trouble with being with, you know, an agent at one time. But it's like now these kids can get handed $150,000 in front of the head coach and no one's going to say anything.
So,
you know?
Was that Laremy Tunsil?
Yeah. Yeah. So
We bring up Laremy Tunsil. That draft night with the gas mask. Like, that's your guy, a left tackle.
Yeah, I love him to death.
What was that like, watching that go? Obviously, he's
It hurt me.
That must have been the craziest night of your life watching, because he was slated to go maybe first overall, certainly top 5.
Yep.
He drops down to 11 or 12, whatever. And he's made money back, you know, hand over fist now down in Houston. But that was your guy.
It hurt me.
Tunsil.
It really did. I thought it was going to be over for him, but like at the same time, the NFL knows this kid is going to be a Hall of Fame player, right? So, you know, weighing all the options.
Why'd he drop then? Because that night was so.
Because you
The
can't
gas
take this
mask
guy.
was wild.
You can't
man.
take that guy right now to give him $30 million that day. That you know, something like
Do you
this.
remember how
I bet you if that happened
Remember how
today, that would
happy
just
he
be
was?
like, no questions asked. We don't care.
I don't know, man. Yeah, he was so happy when that mask came off.
I've never
He was
I've never
happy.
seen a
He
bigger
enjoyed that
smile
mask.
when that mask came up.
Finding the reason behind what happened.
Yeah.
Like I don't
Wasn't
think
his like his stepfather or something?
no
trying to set
it
him
wa-
up or something.
No, it was actually his marketing guy.
No way.
His old marketing guy. Yeah, he wanted to get a new phone, and the guy was like, "All right, give me your old phone. I'll trade it in for you."
And he grabbed all the info on it.
There you go.
So what was Laremy going to leave him in the dust when he went to the NFL?
Wow,
that's greasy, man.
I'm so happy. It's a cool business, though. That guy's a $100 million guy. He knew off the field he can make him another, $2, $3, $4, $5 million, and now that's 10-20% or whatever that he makes. So there's a lot of money that should have been.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe.
So the marketing guy sniffed out that Tunsil was going to gas him. So he said, "Let me get you a new phone," and he got all the info.
Well, there was a situation before that the guy wanted him to pay back some marketing money, and Laramie's like, "No, I'm not going to do that." He's like, "Well, I got this phone," and then the phone situation, and then the guy was able to pull it up after he gave him the phone.
That's crazy, man. That is crazy.
Wow.
I'm so happy that guy it worked out.
Oh, me too.
Because he's a great player.
One of the most honest, truthful, just great. One of my best friends. I love the guy. He's absolutely amazing. He reaches out. His little brother obviously played on our team too. He's just a great human being and a guy who's just super positive all the time and a freak.
Well, we always talk about connections in sports. O can speak about connecting with a center, and that's your guy, and you feel like you're connected to him for life. Is it true when it comes to a left tackle and a quarterback? If that's your guy and he's blocking for you, you feel like you're indebted to him, forever almost?
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. Even my left tackle here, Isaiah Cage, he would come over to my house and hang out, use the hyperbaric chamber. And that's what it's about. Your left tackle better be ready to take care of you. And every place I've always been, they've always been, one of my closest buddies and still to this day.
Awesome. Chad Kelly in studio. So you're on Washington tonight. What's the plan for the rest of your off season? You're back in the gym. I'm sure you're slinging it from time to time.
Yep.
How are we looking?
Just getting ready, trying to get the body back in shape, start hitting these HIIT workouts again, try to get the blood pumping.
So you get hit in the off season? How does that work?
Just the HIIT workouts, right? You pull it up on YouTube and you do something for 30 to 50 seconds at a time, all out, and then you just keep repeating it for it feels like a day.
Yeah.
But it's about an hour long, and man, it kicks your butt for sure.
I guess. Yeah. All right, man. Well, listen, man, great seeing you. We appreciate you doing this.
Hang on a sec, Hayes. This is just laid out right in front of you. For next year, Hayes and bro, you need a third wing. You need a guy to help out with the picks next year. Yeah. He's sitting right in that room with you there.
Chad Kelly would help out. I don't know, man. We make picks a lot on this show. I don't know if you want to be associated with two idiots like myself and Al's brother. But if you got time for us, we'd take it every single day.
But this is the thing. You just never know.
Exactly. Exactly. You have no idea. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't make a difference.
How many times – I know the Cowboys covered that big spread yesterday, right? But, how many times do teams actually cover some huge spread?
Monster spread's not – that's why you look at a number, you're like, it doesn't even matter who you're playing. I'm going to take the points.
You have to, right?
Yeah. In a football game, you're like, I'm going to take the points.
So this is my thing. Just because, we're on TV, we're talking on the radio. I don't understand how it is legal just to always put the spreads and the totals all over the TV. You're telling me these refs don't watch TV?
You think the refs know what the spreads are?
I want 1,000%.
How do they not know?
How do they not know?
Okay. Yeah, you could be.
Are you banning them from watching TV?
No, you're not. They know. But the players know too, don't they?
Exactly. And so it's mind-boggling to me. This is what the world has came to.
You're radioing yourself right now. It's going to be like Chad Kelly thinks refs are crooked all across sports.
Exactly. And Chad, off air, ask Bryan how that question went for Mike Ditka. Was it Ditka that you asked about? Were you aware of the spread?
Dude, I asked Ditka if he was aware of this.
He wanted to scratch his eyeballs.
He wanted to drive up here and scissor kick me right in the face. He was so insulted.
So has anybody besides
outside of that, everyone else is like, yeah, no, I know what the spread is.
But that's what I'm saying. You can't look even in the paper and on the cell phone, social media, it's everywhere. There's billboards when you're driving downtown. It's everywhere.
I'm with you. All right, man. Good luck tonight on TV in the offseason. We'll do it again soon. Chad Kelly.
Take care.
Possibly my partsy in the future. Best bets coming up. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. The line is up to 5.5. Got to be honest, I'm a little nervous now because Chad Kelly loves Washington tonight. But I'm going to lay the points.
Dude, I think it's an ass-beating, Michigan ass-beating.
I like Michigan tonight, too. But he's right. This Penix kid, man, he can sling it. I'm under the number Stars Wild tonight and Rangers money line. Vancouver and at the Garden. That should be a great game. I think that'll be a good game. But parlay those three, you're talking some serious plus money. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. FanDuel's goal in the first 10 minutes is the most electric bet in hockey and can be included in any same-game parlay on any NHL game. Please play responsibly, 19 plus, physically located in Ontario. So we got the championship game tonight. We got some NHL games, some NBA games. Tomorrow the Leafs are playing. The Raptors are playing. NFL football later in the week. Tiger looking for some new apparel. We'll see what he's got.
Skechers on the tee?
Man, if he starts dressing like Matt Fitzpatrick, I will. I hope I see it. I want to see a baggy gray pant.
Just nothing will look normal. Like it's just he had the cashmere Nike sweaters on cold day. He was just seeing him with anything different is going to be bizarre.
Honestly, we have not seen him in anything but Nike for 27 years.
I mean, somebody's going to leak what it's going to be.
Yeah, he's obviously going somewhere. But anyway, and shout out to Chris Kirk who got it done down at the Sentry.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I didn't hear a lot of great Rolf throws to commercials. I was disappointed.
It's like they were icing Rolf.
Yeah, Rolf got ice. Anyway, I thought Kisner was pretty good. Take that for what it's worth. Kiz was pretty good in the booth. All right, we're out of here. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today, radio, TV, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
Tim
Boyle salutes.
4 p.m.
Well, chat, Dan.